Can women with flat chest breastfeed their babies as easy as women with boobs? Does the production of milk differ for flat-chested women and big-chested women? A cup here and had an oversupply with my first actually. The hormone that tells your body to create breast milk can also be passed through breast milk. So my son started lactating too. He was a baby with no boobs. I've been told that larger cheated women can struggle. Not from milk supply, but because the large breast can sometimes make it hard for the baby to latch. The hormones and chemical changes after childbirth will initiate milk production. Small breasts still have nipples and milk ducts and will produce just fine. Having large breasts doesn't mean that a person has better milk ducts. Breast size is totally unrelated to milk production. Does the production of milk differ for flat-chested women and big-chested women? No. I'm pretty sure having a big chest is no guarantee of having milk supply. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. Had a friend with a completely flat chest who produced so much milk that she basically donated enough to feed 2 extra babies. Have another friend with large ones who couldn't produce enough and had to compensate with formula. Having breastfed my children with triple D boobs, I'd say it's actually harder to BF with bigger boobs because I would have to push in my boob away from my baby's nose as to not suffocate them. Many people responded with milk production answers. I just thought about what a pain it was to have to juggle both a baby and a boob as big as a baby. I'm small-chested and breastfed both my kids no problem for almost 2 years. All it requires is mom eating lots of food and drinking lots of water. Our bodies do the rest of the work and adjusts to the baby's needs. I have a cups. I had so much milk and my babies were well nourished. Your boobs grow. Well, they have to hold the baby closer to their chest. But milk comes from the milk ducts, so breast size has no bearing on milk supply. Size has nothing to do with milk production. I'm small-chested and was a milk machine with both kids. Breast size is completely independent of milk production or feeding ease challenges. I have a friend, 5'0", flat as an ironing board. She'd say, who gave birth to 2 10-pound babies and a 9-pounder. She successfully nursed them all, one at a time. Often easier. Or so I've heard. As a flat-chested woman to be before kids, all I know is that they got bigger. And that my girlfriends with DD and above had way more difficulties with latch and position than I did. Most mammals are flat-chested. Humans didn't evolve big jugs for their milk. They evolved to resemble nice juicy asses. Kinda the reverse of an insect evolving yellow and black stripes or warning colors to resemble other animals known for being poisonous or for having powerful, venomous stings. The size of your breasts doesn't matter when it comes to lactation. I really hope biology works its way back into the curriculum. Sex ed wouldn't hurt either. Size of breast actually doesn't contribute much to milk accessibility. As milk only comes out of the nipples and areola, it can often be harder for larger-breasted women to nurse, especially if they have bigger nipples, as getting a good latch can be challenging. Boobs aren't made of milk. Breast size does not predict milk supply. Your breast tissue doesn't produce milk. Mammary glands do. All breasts have the potential to produce milk. Some medications can even cause lactation in AMAB individuals. Assigned male at birth in case you are unfamiliar with the term. It's also possible to get breast cancer with a flat chest. Men can get it, just much less common a fake. Large breasts are a human peculiarity, or nearest relatives. The chimpanzees do not have them, but still manage to breastfeed. Whether a woman can or cannot breastfeed has very little to do with the size of her boobs. Larger boobs can theoretically hold more milk at a time, which can aid in breastfeeding, but the rate at which you produce is also a factor. My friend and I are the same cup size. I cannot breastfeed. I don't produce enough. I have tried and my babies end up losing weight. My friend, on the other hand, has a massive oversupply every time. She can pump 25-30 ounces every feed, which is about what a baby would take in a day. A woman might be flat-chested, but once her milk supply comes in, she won't be flat-chested for long. Cup size has nothing to do with milk supply. I have big breasts and it was hard to feed my son as they would suffocate him. Zany face. Large breasts and small beasts both have milk ducts. Large breasts have larger genetic fat deposits, not larger milk ducts. So they're not juicier, just bigger. Anyone based on genetics and diet can produce milk. Their breast size has no impact. Milk supply isn't based on the volume of tissue and fat on one's chest. Yes, of course. Their breasts grow during the pregnancy and remain until they stop breastfeeding. You know that the milk is in sacs, not the entire breast, right? Almost always. There is a condition where a person can have insufficient mammary tissue. That is usually associated with also having very small and wide-spaced breasts. But not always. Breast size really had nothing to do with milk production, however. But there is certainly a convenience factor associated with being able to reach the bassinet from the bed without getting up, and to be able to have baby rest on your lap under your arm and still reach the nipple. No, bigger boob just has more fat, and that is not connected to breastfeeding. I was an A cup before having babies, and exclusively breastfed 2 very chunky babies. The fat content of breasts has nothing to do with how much milk they can produce. I had a B cup before pregnancy, and DDs while breastfeeding. Both my grandma and mom had issues with breastfeeding as they didn't have. They aren't small-chested either. Thinking face. Yes, the size of the breasts does not dictate how many milk ducts a woman has. Sometimes better. I was almost flat-chested before I got pregnant. Nursed all 3 babies until they were at least over 1 year old. My son was 10 pounds and his sisters were almost as big. He was 15 pounds by his first checkup, over 30 by the time he had anything other than breast milk. With his sister, I could fill a water glass with the extra milk from the opposite side leaking. No problems. Chest size has little correlation with milk production. So the term mommy milkers can actually refer to breasts of any size. No, not a factor. In fact, I have larger breasts with flat nipples, and that made it really hard for me to breastfeed. The baby had nothing to latch on and I ended up pumping instead. Larger berated people don't make more milk than smaller breast either. Yes, milk production has very little to do with breast size. I knew a mom who was a 3-2 AA who nursed both kids for 2 years each and pumped a ton for NICU babies and babies in need. Also had a mom friend who was probably a 4-8 DD or bigger who tried nursing with all 3 kids and could never produce enough for to nurse exclusively. I'm large-chested. One kid was a pain to feed, the other was awesome. Nipple shape can have some impact from my understanding, but that's pretty rare. Interesting question. I would think that nature made it possible for both. I barely fit into an A cup but successfully breastfed both my babies. I had oversupply. The whole time I was breastfeeding was like getting a free temporary boob job. Yep. Only reason someone couldn't is if they had no glandular tissue. In terms of size. Of course there are many other reasons for not being able to breastfeed though.